Now we will study the pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the flower. Pollen grains are non-motile and transferred by abiotic agents like the wind and water, and biotic agents like the birds, insects, snails to their flower. Pollination is the prerequisite for fertilization because both the male and female gametes are non-motile. There are basic two types of pollination. One is the self-pollination and other is the cross-pollination. Self-pollination is a type of pollination which occur in a single flower or two flowers on a single plant. And in the cross-pollination, transfer of pollen grains from anther to mature stigma of another flower on the another plant body having the same species. Pollination can be further divided into three types on the basis of source of pollination. First, autogamy. It is a type of pollination in which bisexual flower is pollinated by its own pollen grains. It is called autogamy. Example P. Second, zytonogamy. It is the transfer of pollen grains to a stigma of different flowers produced on the same plant body. Example, Cucurbita maxima. Generally, this is similar to the cross-pollination as it involves pollinating agents. Third, xenogamy. The transfer of pollen grains from anther of a flower to the stigma of another flower produced on a different plant belonging to the same species with the help of pollinating agents. The offsprings, they are genetically varied. For the pollination, the agents responsible, they have grouped up into two main categories: abiotic agents and biotic agents. Abiotic agents, these are non-living agents which include wind and water. In that first, anemophily, pollination which takes place by the wind is called anemophily. This includes wheat, rice, barley, oats, etc. Palm are also wind pollinated. Now, adaptation in anemophilous flower. First, the flowers are small, inconspicuous, colorless, without nectar and fragrance or odor. Second, pollen grains are light in weight dry, and produced in a large number to increase chances of pollination. Next, stigma is a feathery to trap the pollens carried by the wind currents. Next, stamens with long filaments and versatile anther. Next, stamens and stigma are exposed to air currents. Example, maize. Next, hydrophily. Pollination which takes place by the water is called hydrophily, and such type of the pollination found in aquatic monocots. Example, Vallisneria, Zostera, Ceratophyllum. Now, adaptation in hydrophilous flower. First, flowers are small and inconspicuous. Perianth and other floral parts are unwettable. Next, pollen grains are long and unwettable due to presence of mucilage. Next, nectar and fragrance are lacking in flower. Hydrophily is of two types. First, hypohydrophily. Pollination occurs below the surface of water. Pollen grains are heavy than the water, and therefore they sink down and caught by the stigma of female flower. Example, Zostera. Pollen grains are long, ribbon-like and without exine. Next type, epihydrophily. Pollen grains float on the water surface and reach to the stigma of female flower is called epihydrophily. Example, Vallisneria. Specific gravity of pollen grain is equal to that of water. Second, biotic agents. It includes living agents like insects, birds, bats, snails, etc. In that, first, entomophily. Pollination which takes place by insects is called entomophily. Example, rose, jasmine. Now, adaptation in entomophilous flower. First adaptation. Flowers are large, showy and often brightly colored. Second, the flowers produce sweet odor and have nectar gland. Next, the stigma are rough due to presence of hairs, or sometimes sticky due to mucilaginous secretion. Next, pollen grains are spiny and surrounded by yellow sticky substance called pollen kit. And a specific adaptation, that is, in some plants there is a presence of lever mechanism. Example, that is the salvia. Next type, ornithophily. Pollination which takes place by birds is called ornithophily. Example, bombax, bottlebrush, etc. Adaptation in ornithophilous flower. Flowers are brightly colored, large and showy. They secrete dilute nectar. Pollen grains are sticky and spiny. Flowers are generally without fragrance, as birds have poor sense of smell. Now next, chirapterophilia. Pollination which takes place by bats. Now adaptation in Chirapterophilus flower. First, flowers are dull colored with strong fragrance. They secrete abundant nectar. Flowers produce large amount of edible pollen grains. Example, Anthocephalus, Adansonia.